I guess the biggest beef I have with Donald Trump is not necessarily just him, because I hate this guy with a passion, with a straight up passion that can't be measured. But I guess the biggest beef I have is with Donald Trump supporters, the MAGA. Not only because they're willing to do his bidding, or they're willing to kill for this guy, or burn this country to the ground for this man. Because they've been conned, and they know it. And to help me illustrate this point, I'm going to read an article from Salon.com, a commentary by Amanda Mandacory. Hey MAGA world, Trump thinks you're stupid, and he's exploiting you, as usual. There is little that can be gleaned, legally speaking, from Donald Trump's all-caps Saturday morning tantrum on Truth Social, claiming, quote, he will be arrested on Tuesday of next week, unquote. It's always a safe bet that any one of Trump's supposedly dramatic pronouncements is a big lie, used for money or attention. For another thing, Trump's spokesperson says he has received no formal notice of an indictment from Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who's been presenting evidence of campaign finance fraud regarding a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels. Trump's breakfast post claims that Bragg, working from, quote, illegal leaks, unquote, which probably just means that Trump, a well-known television act, has heard exactly the same speculation about forthcoming indictments that every cable news viewer has heard, including myself. Sure, there may be an indictment in the coming weeks. There also might not be an indictment. There's no actual news on that front. But here's one thing we can glean from Trump's Truth Social outburst. Not that any one of those good faith doubt it. He thinks his followers are complete morons. While he avoids directly calling for violence, there is little doubt that call for his followers to, quote, protest, take our nation back, is meant as a threat. As the Washington Post reports, quote, his language echoes rhetoric that he used in advance of the attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021 by his supporters, unquote. Not only is Trump clearly aware of the effect of his words can have on his own people, but as the House Select Committee that investigated January 6 outlined in painstaking detail, violence is exactly what Donald Trump was hoping for when he riled up the crowd that morning in Washington with elaborate lies about a stolen election. But there's one glaring difference between now and the day of the Capitol insurrection. Let's consider what goals Trump hoped to achieve through violence in 2021 and his goals now. On January 6, 2021, the people who rioted didn't just believe they were acting on Trump's behalf, they also believed they were doing it for themselves and their so-called movement. While I don't doubt the sincerity of Trump's love of their Trump love, ultimately, they didn't storm the Capitol and risk arrest just to mollify his hurt feelings over losing an election. The goal was to seize power illegally, not just for Trump, but for a larger MAGA movement, and to keep a Democrat out of the White House by any means necessary. This time around, it's a lot harder to argue that the larger MAGA movement would have benefited violence. This is just about Trump not wanting to face a judge and a jury in a criminal trial. The folks who attacked the Capitol on January 6th had reason to believe, however far-fetched this may seem, that they could successfully overturn a Democratic election. But what could possibly be accomplished by committing a terrorist act for Trump now? Even if Bragg could be successfully intimidated into never filing charges against Trump, what would that do to advance the larger interests of the MAGA movement? Biden would still be the president, and the Trump hordes would still be facing the prospect of actually having to win an election if they want to regain power in 2024. If anything, any domestic terrorism on Trump's behalf will only make life harder for the MAGA. Most Americans already loathe Trump and see MAGA correctly as a threat to democracy. More Trump-inspired violence would keep anti-Trump voters motivated and could likely convince independents otherwise inclined to vote Republican that the party is still too radical for their taste. Of course, Trump is trying, in his distinctive Grammarly challenged fashion, to spin his own personal fears about prosecution and possibly jail time as something bigger than himself, by claiming that he's the target of a political witch hunt. That's already been backed up by his biggest sycophant in Congress, such like House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who tweeted so far the non-existent indictment as political vengeance against Donald Trump. That argument isn't just false, it's highly implausible and ought to be a hard sell. Trump being indicted doesn't actually change anything for the MAGA movement. If he's forced to drop out of the presidential race, his followers could move on to his successors. Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has already positioned himself as the candidate for people who want Trump's authoritarian politics, but not with the Donald Trump legal baggage. Trump's principal personality trait has always been a crippling narcissism, and he's always had trouble distinguishing between his own interests and that of his followers. He obviously thinks the MAGA movement exists because he has some magical hold on his supporters, but that's exactly backwards. His followers have a set of political goals and desires: white supremacy, male dominance, owning the libs, among others, and Trump molded himself into their perfect leader by reflecting those desires back at them. But Trump yearns to believe that his followers are so infatuated with him personally that they'll be willing to give up their own lives and freedom just to keep him out of jail. His latest Truth Social post proves yet again how much contempt he feels for his own followers. He really does seem to think that there's a wellspring of Trump-loving patriots who risk everything for him, and not in the hopes of seizing political power, but to stop a private citizen from going to jail. He doesn't care, quite obviously, how many people he induces to getting arrested, hurt, or even killed, just so he can avoid consequences for his lengthy career as a criminal. We'll know how Trump's gamble plays out soon enough, since he gave his followers a pretty brief timeline in which to act. It's never wise to bet on the intelligence of Trump voters. Of course, he may be right that enough of them have confused their own political yearnings with the desire to stay out of jail, but it's at least as likely that he won't get any takers, even his followers are intelligent enough to understand that the only likely result here is that they're the ones who are going to jail, while Trump, of course, won't lift a finger to help them. Either way, What's important here is that Trump reverted to form, revealing yet again that he's only out for himself. He's asking his followers to run the risk of prison, injury, or death, and not for any larger political movement or goal. He thinks that they're dumb, and he thinks that they're disposable. He's asking them pretty much to directly volunteer to go to prison so he doesn't have to. I'm in no position or no mood or compunction whatsoever. I'm giving advice to Donald Trump supporters, particularly after the 6 years of hell they put this country through. The personal threats they've given me and this country and the people, all because they don't support Donald Trump. But I'm going to give you this piece of advice. If Donald Trump tells you to protest, stay home. Donald Trump is not worth going to prison for. Donald Trump is not worth dying for. This man will not help you if you get arrested, and you will be arrested. Now, he may mention your name or anything else on your Truth Social, but here's the facts, the straight up, unadulterated facts. If you get arrested, and if you get killed, he will not care. He will not do a thing. He will use your death or your arrest in order to make a political point or two. Not because it's the right thing to do, because it's all about politics with him, about getting what he can get out of the deal. If he can profit from your death or your arrest, he will. If he can make a political point or two, he will, off your dead body. Do not give it to him. But if you're stupid enough to actually do that, if you're stupid enough to let him use you and to use the death of your loved ones because they marched in a protest or marched in an attack like January 6th, like Ashley Babbitt, who died because of a lie that cost her life, a lie that will cost you your lives, all for the sake of one person, not because of a political movement, because he wants to stay out of prison or stay out of the courtroom at the very least. If you're stupid enough to let that happen, then you deserve everything you get. Prison or the grave. And I have no sympathy for either one. CTP Know The Truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.